Did we put to bed? I don't know what we accomplished with discussing Pete and his legacy and moving forward. I don't know. It just felt like it was the same story with Pete, and it never changed.
You know, I'm repeating myself here. Nobody's nominating Pete Rose for Citizen of the Year. But not only was he a truly great player, just on the numbers, he's a Hall of Fame caliber player, but he was so iconic in the way he played the game and a bigger than life personality and part of one of the great teams, the Big Red Machine. And it's not just in the aftermath of his death. I've been saying this for more than 30 years. Baseball should have made a distinction. Now, I know that technically it's the board of directors of the Hall of Fame, but if any of the commissioners had said, hey, come on, it's okay with us, that would have influenced the board of directors. They could have made a simple distinction. He is rightly banned from any official part in baseball because he broke the cardinal rule, but he's on the Hall of Fame ballot. People who poisoned the record books by taking steroids probably damaged the game more than Pete Rose ever damaged the game. They're on the ballot, whether they make it in or not. They're on the ballot. And if he winds up getting in posthumously now, it's almost like they're twisting the knife, whether that's their intention or not. And I know that there were unsavory things connected to Pete, but somebody got those 4,256 base hits. And I've always said you could put it at the bottom of the plaque, along with all the achievements. Banned from baseball in 1989 for gambling. And in the immediate aftermath, Fay Vincent, who succeeded Bart Giamatti and was one of Bart's closest friends, if he had lifted that ban in terms of the Hall of Fame, that would have seemed too lenient. But as time went by, you get to the turn of the century, I think everybody would have grasped it. Eligible because of what he did historically, eligible for the Hall, no longer officially connected to baseball. That's the punishment. And people who say, well, you know, baseball, like every other sport, has now embraced gambling, so it's hypocritical. I get that atmospherically, that's a bad look, but it's still the rule for any player. If you bet on a game in which you're not involved in baseball, you can bet on football or basketball. But if you bet on a game that you're not involved in, automatic at least 1 game suspension, then you can 1 year suspension, then you can apply for reinstatement. But if you bet on a game in which you are involved, including if you bet on your own team, the rule is still exactly the same as it's been for decades and decades: lifetime banishment.
But if he was in the Hall of Fame, do you think if they found out that he gambled later, would they have taken him out of the Hall of Fame? Let's say, just baseball-wise, his career, Hall of Famer. Then he becomes a manager, let's say, 6 years after he's in the Hall of Fame. And then he's betting on baseball. They find that out. Would they have taken him out of the Hall of Fame?
See, but at that point, he couldn't have managed in baseball by what I just suggested. He's banned from baseball.
No. Let's say, they don't catch him.
Oh, I see.
No, so he's in the Hall of Fame for his playing career. He waits 6 years. The Reds bring him in to be their manager. Then all of a sudden he bets on baseball. Would they have taken him out of the Hall of Fame?
That's a tricky one. I guess not, but they might have altered the plaque.
Okay.
To indicate, what the circumstances are. For those who haven't been to the Hall of Fame, some people think of it as just the plaque gallery. That's part of it, but it's a much larger museum. And Pete Rose and Joe Jackson and all the supposed steroid guys, they're all represented in terms of their place in baseball history throughout the museum. But it's the plaque gallery where Pete Rose is missing. I mentioned this on the air right after he died, someplace or other. I went to the Hall of Fame with Pete for a piece for the Today Show sometime in the 90s. And he had not set foot in the Hall of Fame since Bart Giamatti had banned him. And at one point, he walked over to Ty Cobb's plaque. And Pete was not a reflective man at all. But in that moment, you could tell he was reflecting. And I actually backed away to give him some space. And you could tell that he's looking at this plaque and saying, hey, I'm connected historically to this guy I never met. I'm connected to Ty Cobb. Why am I not here, represented in this gallery? Well, the answer is mostly by your own doing. But justice can be tempered with mercy. I don't think if Pete Rose had gotten into the Hall of Fame, let's say in 2005, 2010, and he had the plaque in the fashion that I suggested, no little kid is going to walk through the Hall of Fame with his dad, look at the plaque and say, Gee, Dad, I guess it's okay then if I get to the major leagues and I bet on baseball. I mean, the cautionary tale is there.
Yeah.
It was in the first paragraph of his obituary. And we knew that for decades, that it would be in the first paragraph of his obituary. He paid a huge price, even if it was by his own doing, he paid a huge price.
Yeah, I did ask Johnny Bench after Pete died. I said,
I saw that segment.
Yeah, I said, did you have any idea if he was betting on baseball as a player? And he said, well, I was told by the FBI, to stay away. I think the reason why Pete is never going to be on the ballot is those commissioners know that Pete bet as a player. And I think that might be the point of no return.
That may be true. I asked Rob Manfred in an interview a few years ago, is there something that the general public and those of us in the media pay attention to or would know about? Is there something that we don't know about that influences this decision? Something more damning than what we know, or additionally damning to what we know? And Manfred's answer was no.
Yeah, I don't believe it. Don't believe it. Had too many conversations with Bud Selig where I got a sense that there was something there. And I don't think Pete all of a sudden goes, hey, I'm just going to start gambling on baseball as a manager and not as a player.
What you're saying is logical.
Yeah, I know.
We don't know the answer for sure, but it's certainly a logical question.